and teacher for this day and time. Okay, open up class with our information. I can play it from, can I play it from the thing? I can easily play it from here, can't I? Okay. For those who want to actually chant along with this or see what it's saying, if you're on Zoom, I'll be able to share the screen with you. Okay, let me open up that one. That one has the. Will it come on here? Sure. Yeah. What is this? Okay. At the moment, Clubhouse is kind of like messing up a bit. Clubhouse. Okay. Aluki Jawef Pa Ashuk Empa Baut Kalel Ashuk Kaum Jawef Neya Aluki Kasambum Empa Baut Upa Baut Kaum Kasambum Em Neya Aluki Wahu Ame Pa Baut Upa Baut Kaum Wahu Ame Neya Na kokado na ju ame kasam empa baut khabo ame mushkas na kokado kawan kale pafaf na kok aru jawef pa baut ame kase ame ni kaun lake bakoy jawef pa baut and yeah, it's just frozen now. Oh, really? Afashni, Baut Kawun Aluki, Baut Kadol, Nakok Kadol, Baut Amul, Nakok Amul. Okay. All right. I apologize for that technicality. I think my wife, is the Wi-Fi picking up? It's really buggy. Oh, it's finally come now. All right, let's start from the top. Apologies for that. Musmalu, Musa. Okay, let me start that again. What's the pin? Why is there a pin? It's got a pin. What is Zoom trying to do to me today? Take your final tape. All right. Apologies for that. Let's start again. Bab, Nata, Muqdar, Naut, Mugdad, Badet, Pata, Naut, Muklas, Badet, Yanun. Anuki, Jawefa, Ashuk, Empa, Baut, U Kalel, Ashuk, Kamun, Jawef, Nia,
Tasam empa paut kaun tasam emnaya.
Upa paut kaun wahu ame niya nako kadu naju ame kasamu empa paut uhabu ame muskasum nako kadu kawan kalal afaf nako aru jawef pa paut ame wase ame aradni kaun laye bakwe jawef pa paut anuki yabet diye nafashni Paut Kawun Anuki, Paut Kadun Nakuk Kadun, Paut Amul Nakuk Amul. Rahuba Moisar, welcome to another question and answer class with myself, Usia Ka'a Reye, also known as Kobina. If this shortened version is probably might be more easier if you can remember that. Okay, I'm a student teacher of the master teacher, Pa Nabab Yanun. Okay, who sits to the right of us here in that picture. If you're new for the first time, welcome. If you're an existing attendee and you've been coming to classes quite often, welcome too. I hope you had a wonderful day today. It's been a nice day outside propagating, reaching the masses. I'll be taking class today covering, well, basically it's a topic and it's a communication. We're gonna have a dialogue here. So the question I've put on here in the forum on Clubhouse is, you are the future influencer in natural nature. Okay, so you are the future influencer in natural nature. Anyone want to give a stab at what that means? Anyone wants to give their view on what being an influencer in natural nature means? Feel free. I hope I can be heard. Don't be shy. I can read it for you if you want. Okay, I'm inviting someone to speak. This is who's coming up to speak? Okay, Pata Amun Reye Rahubat. Rahubat.
Tower. I think what I think that means is that we are the influencers that will impact the world with this information, this knowledge, this the cure, for this troubled world.
Very aptly put.
Can I be heard?
Yeah, you can. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Because we're having line connection problems. Okay, okay, yeah. All right. Yes, yeah, you're very aptly put.
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that is essentially, I keep getting weak and strong signals for some reason. But yeah, what you've said there, my brother, is very aptly put. Anybody else wants to take a stab at that? You are the future influencer in natural nature. What does that mean to you?
Okay, what I would like to say is
Takers, Patricia Harper?
Yes, what I would like to say for
take
me,
a take on that?
Yeah, for me personally, I have got to get myself in order so that...
Is anyone speaking? Can I be heard by anybody? Thumbs up or something, because I'm not getting any response.
We can hear you.
Zamal, you getting any response? No, nothing.
I can still hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone want to give a stab at what I've asked? You are the future influencer in natural nature. What that means to you? Okay. Let me read something and maybe it might spark some right. Let me read from Reflection and Projection. We can hear you. Okay. Tell Tap for letting me you can hear me. Right. Let me read from Reflection and Projection, verse 153 of Reflection and Projection. Okay, that's actual facts. Right. Verse 153 says, Wu-Sabat is the science of reality, dealing with hakakat facts, as revealed by Fatir al-Fatah, natural nature, that we can know the right knowledge, the right wisdom, the right understanding onto overstanding by using sound right reasoning. Verse 154. Now, before I even go to verse 154, does everyone overstand that statement there in verse 153? Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you, sir? Yeah, does that make sense in the listening audience? Yeah, it's the science of reality. So the question I posed, okay, is, you are the future influencer in natural nature. Okay, so how do you view that now after hearing verse 153? If you're the future influencer and Wu-Sabat the science of reality, dealing with facts as revealed by natural nature, yeah, and we know that through right knowledge, the right wisdom, the right understanding onto understanding by using sound right reasoning, how can you influence the future in natural nature? Okay, let me give you a clue. It starts with our children. Part of it is
anyone else heard that, but I wasn't able to hear what you read.
Oh, really? Okay, this is, yeah, we're having technicalities because my mic is on. And if you can hear me, I'll read it again then. I'll read it again. And let me know if I can be heard. Right, so verse 153 of Reflection and Projection. Wu-Sabat is the science of reality, dealing with hakakat facts as revealed by Fatir al-Fatah, natural nature.
Again. I think you're going.
Okay. I'm gonna, can you, is that just you or just everybody saying that? Because I can leave and come back in. That might help. Yes, Clubhouse, yeah. Clubhouse is always glitchy, unfortunately. I mean, my mic is on, I can be heard by others. So try and go back in, Pata Amunreye, and go come out and come back in. Maybe that might solve the issue. Oh, okay.
I did hear you when you first start reading, but it cut out.
Oh, right. I'll read it again then.
Like 3 seconds, you know.
Oh, okay.
The first 3 seconds.
Oh,
wow,
wait.
Then it cut out again.
Okay, let me Taluzi again. Right. Wu-Sabat is the science of reality, dealing with.
Yeah, every time you start it goes out. I'll try to go out and come back in.
All right, wait. Okay, so any takers? No takers still? Or you just not being shy with me today? There's shyness going on. Okay, no worries. So I said I gave you a clue to that. I said that it's to do with your children. Okay, that's a part of the puzzle, because in realizing that you can influence your children in a way where they can live a more fruitful life, more conducive life, okay, to their well-being, they, within nature, will be able to influence what the future will look like because of what you instill in them. Okay? Does that make sense? Because ultimately, that our children are our future. And if we're able to impart on them information that builds their foundation on facts, their reality shapes what we are going to, some of us, if we come back through our children, we will live in that reality. But if we give them information or misinformation that is dealing with not something to do with themselves, and it destroys their minds, which a lot of our children are exposed to in this day and time, it doesn't influence natural nature. It goes against their natural nature. It goes against nature's, the true product, what that nature can conceive. So this information is designed to give you that reality so that you can impart it on your children, okay? Verse 154, Sawab kawun sawab, truth is truth, fact is fact, real is real. 155. We Musbatu Sabians strive to help all Shakhasu people eliminate the lies of their history. So it's not just about, us changing or influencing through natural nature, but it's for all humanity, okay? That they've also been lied to. It's not just us as Africans or the Black race. Everybody in this current cycle has been lied to in some shape or form, all right? And over the past 6,000 years, an awakened people that are lambs for the slaughter by Musyad Muftatalu, extraterrestrials, they think and call God or gods. Verse 156. Their dominion has ended in the year 2000 AD, and extraterrestrials are using viruses, microbes, microorganisms, bacterium, and disease to kill all Mufmamu humans on this Mikab planet. This is their germ warfare now being used, the Tapau world over, by Adamites, Muadamu, who have a covenant with Musyad Mutatalu extraterrestrials since Ibrahim, Ibrahim, and the Muadamu, Adamite bloodline, using bio-warfare on others who don't have their own Muslafu ancestors to Sayun, protect from them. Okay, so back to the question. How do you use, you are the future influencer. Yeah, how can you use and influence what you have in your mind's eye, okay, in natural nature to create a better world? Because this is what's currently happening now. You see it all around you. Yeah, you see bio-warfare, you see people, nations killing nations, attacking nations. You hear all these disasters, etc. How do you become an influencer? The brother mentioned about teaching and spreading Wu-Sabat. I've just mentioned about educating our children in their true essence of who they really are. Okay, so in those two aspects, it shows you that if we are able to, within our mind's eye, produce those realities, we can make it manifest, okay, in this reality and make it our reality. Does that make sense? Okay. Verse 160. Not believing in their gods, etc., is most important thing. This is the nonsense of creating a spook god from nothing in your Akal mind. Verse 161. Then giving it life in your Safa'a books, as you Talul read about the Shabbat image of the Mudbat human beast in their Bible that they gave life or made seem real, as all religious stories. Yeah. So this is religion, and this is how they get most of us, is through religion. Okay. And they get us where we have in our mind's eye the image of other than ourselves. How supreme or powerful we are, we give it to this unseen force that we call God or Allah or Allahumma, etc. So, moving on to yeah, if there's any questions, feel free. I'm seeing to. Any questions online? Oh, we got a question.
Zamal, I can be heard.
Jose, do you have a question?
Yes, Rabobat. However, the question is not related with the topic, though.
There's something going on, with my laptop.
Can you hear me?
Zamal.
Verse 157. I'm going to go to verse 177.
Yes, Zamal.
It's not coming through, is it? Yeah. Is it?
I'll try to reconnect.
The thing is, I can see people, but it's like it's not. I don't know if the sound. Yeah, the Wi-Fi is strong.
I don't
Wi-Fi is strong.
I don't think you can hear us
intermittent signals.
Okay, let's try to connect and connect back.
Right, let me read from 177.
Okay,
The appropriate thing for our Shakasu people to do is this. Come back to your own culture, way of life. Anak, life. Life as Afaf Reye Ka'au, Africans. Your Kadim, ancient Egyptian ways. Wu-Sabat. Come back to Sabab, reason. Hakak iti, reality. And Hakakat, facts. And deal with the mundane problems and miserable conditions that affect our lives after 4000 BC to now 2000 AD. And this means that you, our race of people, must use what is in our own sachem, power, to solve our own problems and stop looking to others and their ka'ah, spirit forces, of Satu, Achach, six ether, their God, ghost, ka'ah, spirit, takyuf, apparition, unknown and unknowable phantoms, Majjar, spectre, spook, one who appears to do for you what you must do for yourself. Okay. Verse 181. By our own bloodline and Muslafu ancestors within you and outside of you. Your Ka'a spirits to do for Nafash self and kin. Your owners already among you and have been all the time. All right. Can I be heard still, or you can? I can hear you. Okay, I'll be heard. All right. From Jose Rahubat Musa, question. If there's a question in the chat, okay, 1 second. Zamal, can you get to the chat on Zoom? Oh, sorry, I got it. Sorry. There's a question. If the lion attacks us because of eating meat, why does the lion eat zebras, antelopes, which are herbivorous? Okay. What does that? What exactly are you? What's your question exactly on that one, Jose? If the lion attacks us because of eating meat, why does the lion eat zebras, antelopes, which are herbivores? It's simply because it's doing according to his natural nature, my brother. It's eating what is designed by natural nature to eat, which is meat, whether it is a herbivore that is eating grass or herbs for its sustenance. So in essence, what an animal eats is according to its nature. Okay, and the nature of a lion is to eat meat. And that's what these antelopes and zebras are made up of. They're made up of flesh, which is, that keeps them sustained. So I'm not really understanding your question unless there's something more you're probing at. But that is,
can you hear me, Zamal?
That's their nature, and their nature is that they eat meat, whether that creature's a herbivore or carnivore. So it kind of doesn't matter unless you're saying because their natures are different, why would they eat something that has a different nature? But I don't really quite understand your question. I hope I've answered what you've asked, but I don't really quite understand unless you want something more clarity on something. Okay, your second question is, what actually means when it's said that a woman shape shifts during ovulation? Okay, when a female is going through her ovulation cycle, her genetics literally, the gyration and the energy in her matrix shifts her bodily shape. So her bodily shape shifts to look more appealing to the opposite sex, i.e. the male. And in her changing and appearing more younger looking or more appealing to the eye, it's very subtle, but in that you see certain changes in her mammary glands or her hips. Those things change to the point where the male if he's attracted to that, it's what he sees. But it's a very subtle forms of changing that you see. Okay, there's a certain glow. It's like when a woman's also pregnant or she's carrying a child, you see that there's a certain glow about the female. You know, she has this, how can I explain it? It's like a shimmering effect she has, do you know what I mean? And they even give a woman a compliment like, oh, you're glowing. And that's due to the energy that she's then giving off. So that genetic shift is literally that. She actually shifts in a very subtle way to attract the male, you know, for copulation, because essentially that's what she's doing. She's trying to attract the male in order to copulate and then germinate and have children. So that's the reason for ovulation. Ovulation is the production of the cycle. Rahubat, greetings. You know, and that cycle then produces the female to obviously ovulate, and in that ovulation, her genes or the DNA, it gyrates, which means it starts to vibrate in a particular way and causes her to show certain subtle signs which the male is attracted to. So that's what takes place. Okay, I hope that answers your question, because I'm not getting any feedback from anybody for some reason. Could you unmute your mic and say something?
Robert.
Shem, I could hear you. Can you hear me, Shem?
The mic?
Robert, hear me?
Do you think it's this?
We can hear you, but it seems you can't hear us.
Yeah, you can't hear us.
Right, sorry, it was due to the cable in the headphone jack. That's what's causing it. So
I can hear you clearly.
Do you want me to read Genetic Kiss, or can you read it out, Jose?
Can you hear me now?
Can I move on to your second question?
Can you hear me now?
Because I can hear you now. Yeah, you can be heard.
Perfect.
I think it was the cable in the jack that was causing the problem.
Finally, yes. Actually, I should go back.
Would you like to ask your question?
Can you hear me? Hello, Kabuena.
Use this. Yeah, bring it in.
Yeah, there's a clear communication.
So we're just gonna swap the computers around. First time it's ever happened.
Because already restarted.
Time for everything, I guess.
I logged out and it back in. So it's probably on your side.
Could you ask your question, Anna?
Yes, it is. Jose, it is. He can't hear us. Even though we can hear him clearly, he can't hear us.
Okay.
So he's
Correct.
on the ground now. He's on the ground now.
We've changed the one second. Yeah. So we got feedback now. All right, trying to reduce the feedback. Okay, yeah, Jose, you can ask your question now.
Yes, Zamal, can you hear me now?
Can we hear? Can we plug in? Would that work? Yeah. Okay, we're just going to plug into the speaker so people in the audience in class can hear it before we. Okay, could you speak now?
Yes, Robobat. 1, 2, test. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you can be heard, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Actually, on each question, the first 3 questions, they're coming out of the scroll Genetic Kiss.
Yeah.
And the context, I wrote. Zebras and antelopes if they are herbivorous, because should have another reason why they eat humans. It's not just because the fact. So I wanted to clarify that it's not just because of the fact that we eat meat or not. Huh?
Okay.
Well, the echo makes our audio impossible to understand your message.
Okay, well, we'll continue.
I also did not understand what was said. Eh?
Okay. So you have animals are carnivores. They're carnivores. Right, let's try it now. Can I be heard?
Perfect.
Excellent.
Sound clear.
Right. Sorry, we finally got there. Okay, so we have right, repeat your question again so we don't get sidetracked.
Okay, let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
These questions, 3 of the 4 questions are related to the genetic kiss. So the first question is regarding the lion that says, if the lion attacks us because of eating meat, why does the lion eat zebras and antelopes, which are herbivores? And that goes to the verse 36 on genetic kiss.
Okay, I haven't got the book in front of me, but from what I understand, the master's explaining that it's like your body is a temple, right?
Correct.
So the analogy is being given that if you are consuming meat, okay, which is a food source that's eaten by carnivorous creatures, and you by natural nature are not a carnivorous being, okay, you're actually herbivore. And what will happen is that everything that you eat has the spirit inside of the animal. So even the trauma that the animal experienced, it gets trapped in the blood of that animal, which is where the spirit resides. You following? So now that you've consumed it, know that your body, because it's made up of different dimensional states or energies, your body consumes that and it locks in that energy or spirit of that creature. So you have then carnivorous beings that we are not or have been not being made aware of that exist in different realms and different realities, okay? Different vibrational existence. And they are attracted to your temple because now you're exuding or emitting a frequency of that animal. Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand now. So it's not literally over a lion per se.
Yeah, it's using that as an analogy to say that animals are attracted as carnivores, they're attracted to meat. And also as carnivorous beings, there's certain beings that are attracted to the spirit or the meat of that creature, of that human being who's consuming that meat. Yeah, so the saying is you are what you eat. And it's not literal in the sense of just the food and the protein aspect or the, mineral aspect. You're also made up of certain energies. And those energies translate into what is known as the energy or etheric realm or existence. What as I said, was that there's things, realities that have not been explained to us. And some of those realities is that there are beings that exist in a different state. I mean, if I was to just give a simple example, water has different states of vibration. It can become solid, liquid, gas, etc. So when it dissipates into those states, it still exists, but you're not aware, not necessarily aware of it. Yeah, you have hydrogen atoms and other subatomic elements that do exist and are alive and think and breathe, because that's part of natural nature. So you have beings that also exist, think, live, and breathe in that state. Now, they are looking for the energy and not necessarily the flesh of that particular, even though some of them do eat flesh, but some of them are looking for the energy. So what happens is when you eat a food that has a lower vibrational energy, what starts to happen to your body without you being consciously aware of it is that you're lowering your vibrational state to a frequency that you can be picked up by beings who consume meat, for instance, or consume flesh. And some of them also consume the energy of human beings in the form of their soul. Yeah, that's the level that the master teacher is explaining to us, because you have to understand that on the levels of elements, hydrogen is the first point, but that first point goes into the realm of what is known as ether. And those etheric elements or realms is where some of these beings reside. But they can see you because of the light that you emit. So if you're emitting, the light that you're emitting is called your aura. So that aura that you might be throwing off and emitting, there are beings that are attracted to that. So sometimes, most of the time, it will be the red light. The red light is the light of lust and desires and things like that, which is a lower vibration. And that lower vibration is where beings, some of them reside on those vibrations and they're attracted to you and they want to then either consume you or take you away. This is where you get your abduction stories and other things from. And when they take you away, they're able to then utilize you as their source of food. Yeah, it sounds wayward, it sounds far-fetched until you start to understand the realities that there are certain things known as close encounters or extraterrestrials, because merely the word actually just merely means any being that's extra on an addition to Earth. Okay, extra, terra, astral, from the stars or for the celestial. Okay, and those stars, what you have to start reasoning in your mind is that a star is a sun. So if a star is a sun, the things that revolve around it are planets. And if planets revolve around suns, there are some planets that do have life. And some of these life forms have traveled to this star system and have lived here amongst us for thousands and thousands of years. And not all of them eat plants or herbs. Some of them are meat eaters, just like we will go shopping and we'll buy chicken and pork and all of these meats to consume. Likewise, extraterrestrials, they see Earth as a shopping center to some of them. Okay, so does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, Zamal. It's clear when it comes to the temple and the altar and the body. Mm-hmm. That's understood. Appreciate love on that one. Guess we can jump to the next one.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Number 3, mm-hmm. I wanted to know which scroll dives into the science of sex. Okay. The genetic case. There is actually I can read. I have the book here with me. Mm-hmm. Genetic case 300, verse 301. Mm-hmm. Says many people know the art of sex, but few, if any, in the West or East know the science of sex.
That's right.
As taught by the ancient Egyptians, mm-hmm. of whom all others came to learn by Pa Nasdaru. Mm-hmm. The art of sex is knowing how to obtain and give the greatest ecstasy and or pleasure from the physical act of sex and the mental act of sex. Mm-hmm. 304, yet the science of sex is knowing how to obtain and give the least adverse results, mm-hmm. both physical and mental. So mm-hmm. by this, I got curious in order to dive into this topic. So mm-hmm. I would like to know which scroll would help me out to find out the difference between the art and the science and get more details.
What's coming to mind is the breath book, Mafkuzat. What else is there? Gospel, that's the one. the Gospel of Yanun to the Sacred Feminine. That goes into a lot of the science, okay, of sex, because essentially that's the next progeny. So in knowing that you're going to conceive a child, okay, that is going to have a physical and mental productive way of life and living, okay, for its future generation, you have to understand that what you consume, what you eat, what you do, how you think, etc., will affect that child. Okay, everything that's done is done in the DNA, which is passed on from generation to generation. So if you have your great grandparents, what we teach we teach about the 30 spirits. Okay, so understanding the science that there are 30 spirits from both sides of the family. Okay, so mother and father who have their mother and father, etc., going back 4 generations, they also pass down into that child. So now, if you are a person in this lifetime and you have children, if you're smoking, partying, etc., and these have an effect on your DNA and your genes, you pass that on, because now you're violating the science of sex. You see what I'm saying? Because you're literally out of desire conceiving a child. Most of us have done it out of desire and lust. We haven't done it because we said to ourselves, oh, what's your genetic blood type? Or, what's your DNA? Or who's your father and mother? I know it sounds crazy, but if we're talking about Wu-Sabat, Wu-Sabat is the science of science. And what we did as a race is that we understood that characters can be passed into families, or genetic, either positive genetics or negative genetics can be passed into families. So because of that, we would kind of like do a vetting system. We'll know about the mother, we'll know about the father, we'll know about their uncles, aunts, etc. And then we would choose that wife based on those genetic and mental aspects of them, so that we'll be breeding a child that is less prone or less susceptible to any influences, physical, mental, etc. Yeah, so that's the science of sex. So we've been given guidelines as to understanding who we are, what we should do, what we should eat, how we should think when we're having a child. Is it just out of pure lust, or is it because we've thought about the future and how the child is going to how the child is going to survive, and what we're going to impart on the child while it's growing. This is all part of the science of sex. And it's very important because of the fact that the female is the one that will be carrying the child for 9 months. And due to the fact that she's going to be carrying the child for 9 months, how she feels, her emotional state, her mental state, etc., if there are any imbalances, either hormonally or mentally, that also gets passed to the child. Now, sometimes you may think, okay, the child's born physically, they look well, etc. But what we teach also is that we have something called epigenetics. Okay, and epigenetics is that you have, on top of your DNA, that sits on top of your DNA, you have something called what they call satellite DNA. And these satellite DNA and transposons, they sit on top of your DNA. And anytime a child or somebody is exposed to an environment, it turns on and off. It's like a switch. Yeah, that can activate certain things in your genetic or DNA pool. Okay, so if you put a child in a positive environment, you expose them to music, soul music, you expose them to playing the guitar or piano, you expose them to certain things in their life that will enrich their life, they become more stable. They're much more stable. They're much more in control of their emotions. They're much more in control of their mental faculties. If you polluted your body and then you expose your child to a polluted environment, it also has the potential, not necessarily it's going to happen, but it has the potential to also affect the child in a negative way and impact on them. You see, so this is the science of sex, all right, that we advocate for people to practice.
Correct. This is one of the things that I love about the culture is the ontology behind it.
That's right.
It feels like that we are cleaning up all the ignorance and things that we went through before. I appreciate love on that one, Zamal.
Antakatira 4. This is what the master said, learning to turn yourself inside out and outside in. So inside out is what you taking in, whether it's physically, visibly, emotionally, etc., that can have an impact on you. So learning to cut out certain things in your life that you were exposed to as you were growing up or while as an adult. Do you know what I mean? So weaning yourself or gradually, either whether it's you eating meat or you have a love for indulging in chocolate and you eat chocolate every day because you love sweets, know that all of these things have an impact on you. And if I can elaborate, especially on sugar, we know that sugar is in a lot of food, and if we're conscious, we look at the labels and we check to see if it has contained sugar or any forms of derivatives of sugar. Now, what many people don't know or haven't studied is that sugar, what it does is actually strips your DNA. It weakens your DNA, and then it causes your cells to mutate. So that's the impact of cancer, because once your cells start to mutate, that's where cancerous cells start to form and grow. You see, so sugar, refined sugar, that is, let me just add. Yeah, it's not just like sugars in honey and things like that, but too much of anything also can have an impact. But essentially, I'm talking about white refined foods like white rice. Do you know what I mean? All the white stuff that they've bleached stuff that they've given to us and our forefathers for, hundreds of years or, decades ago, those have an impact on us now. So some of the maladies and things that we have as we're growing up as children is because what our parents were exposed to and didn't really know about the impact it was going to have on them. Yeah, so that's just to add to that. Are there any more questions on that subject?
Yes, Zamal, one more question. And by the way, that comment that you made on the chocolate, I just bought 2 this afternoon. So okay, I'll take care of that.
No worries. Listen, we all have things that we need to wean ourselves from.
Okay, so one more question. One more question is regarding the meals. On the session on Tuesday, it was mentioned that we can pray before a meal in order to, as a good practice, in order to clean up the food and everything. So I don't know which prayer should we pray before a meal so far. Can you share with us which one is that, or which are those?
I remember one that I had. It was in the Gold Book, but that's an old book, called the Gold Book.
I have it.
Okay, so you have to just bring that up into the tones of our language now. So bring the tones to the current tones and be able, if you're able to translate it, through the language app, or sorry, not the language app, the language platform that we have. If you go through the words and search the words out, you'll be able to translate it. And then that's what I try to do sometimes. If I need to translate something, I'll kind of like go into the language forum and then look at the words and then try and rewrite it, do you know what I mean, into the updated tones. But essentially, also when you read the breath book, it does explain in there about how you can also clean water before you drink it. And it's explained that the same thing with your food that you're about to consume, or the liquid you're about to consume, you create an aura or an auric field around your food every time you're about to consume it. So in you consuming it, just the fact that you create an auric field and your mental energy is asking for that food to, when you consume it, to give you the right sustenance and the right. You see, this is our science. This is the black science. If you're talking about African spirituality or the black science of who we are, this is how we communicated with nature. Everything that we did, as it says, ontology or animism, we knew that some things were alive. That's why we don't really try to eat too much dead foods, because herbs, etc., and vegetables are more alive than meat. You see, so when you have that auric field around your food and you give it blessings, or you say blessings over it, know that the nutrients in the food goes into the quantum, okay, into the lower, the energy level. And that energy level is what you're consuming really and truly, because as your body breaks it down, it breaks it down to all those nucleotides, and the nucleotides goes into all the smaller particles and atoms all the way back down to the quantum level anyway. So once you understand that as a science, that's your spiritual science to make the connection with those herbs and vegetables that you're consuming, you see? And in doing that, you also have an etheric link to the vegetable kingdom. So these are the realities that has been made to seem like it's far-fetched. So we don't really tamper with it because due to, the way we've been groomed and conditioned through religion, is that there's only one being, and that one being is, this God character, etc. But we've totally disregarded all of what natural nature has to provide for us, So again, I hope that gives you more information and understanding.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. On the gold book,
yeah.
Do you know which supplication is? Because on the table of contents, only says supplications.
I would have to check that out and direct message you because it's been a while since I used.
Okay, all right. That's okay.
You can use your own. What some say, you are a divine being. Remember that. So if you formulate a supplication with your sincere heart over your food, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I do it myself. Do you know what I mean? When I'm about to eat or whatever.
Okay, that's okay. That's very much okay. And the app for the language, where should we download it from?
No, that's what I said. It wasn't the app. I meant the language platform. You got the language platform, don't you?
No, I don't. That's what I'm asking for.
Okay. The language that's in. Are you in the? Is he in the? You're in the OSM Vision? Are you in Telegram?
Of course.
Yeah. Just search what's it called? Lahaj. Yeah, Lahaj. You see the language platform link there.
Lahaj. All right. Okay, I'll look for it. I appreciate love, Zamal.
You're welcome. And any questions in the listening audience or on Zoom or Clubhouse? Please ask away. Don't be shy. Anything. Okay. Okay. Rahubat? Did I hear something?
Rahubat.
Zamata.
I have a question. It's concerning something from an update. I can't remember the exact date. It had to do with counterparts.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So from what I understood from that point is that there's a place that kind of mirrors Earth.
Yeah.
It's called what's it called?
Sirion?
No, I can't. Clarion. Thank you.
Yeah, Clarion. Yeah.
So my question is there any more elaboration on that? Because it was really short.
Yeah, the master didn't really go into Clarion that much. What he explained was that it goes the opposite way to the other solar systems. I think he said it revolves, like all the solar systems obviously are going in a circular sort of motion around our sun in their own orbit, but the Clarion goes the other way of over, how he explained it, over the sun, I suppose, to around it. So it's moving a totally different trajectory.
Well, wait. Also, he was speaking about, because I think the question was asked, the reason why he gave that was how do we, because we have a counterpart, so do we look alike? And what happens if one of us die over here? And he spoke about something about like our souls or something supposed to come together, and that's supposed to be like the knowledge from the counterpart they learned over there and the knowledge that we learned over here is combined and make us whole. Can you like elaborate or make it more clear for me?
You do have counterparts, because as a dimensional being, what's the movie called? Upside Down, right? Yeah, there's a movie called Upside Down that gives you a kind of like an understanding, or at least a concept of how things are. So essentially, as you exist here, you have a counterpart of you in another dimension, and sometimes your counterpart may be in your dreams, or you may be in your dreams counterpart. I'm sorry, in your counterpart's dreams. And essentially, as you raise in degrees and vibration, as you two meet, your counterpart, everything that you do here is opposite to them. Yeah, so if you're right-handed, they're left-handed. If you have one boy, one girl, they have one girl, one boy. It's like that. That's how it works. Yeah, and essentially, as you raise in degrees and out of this physical body, you will meet that being and you will merge into one. Does that make sense?
You know, that's true detachment. Detach from everything that don't serve them.
Sorry, what's that, Zamal?
Just letting them know that's true detachment. Detach from everything because you are everything.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah,
detach from all fleshly desires because you are
that's
everything.
right.
To the point of the void. When you reach the void, you understand you are everything. That's the whole nothingness because you come from something. But that's the nothingness because the nothingness is the void. It said in the beginning, there was the void, just darkness over the waters. So you are everything.
My brother, Johnson, Errol.
Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate. I know you're full of energy and you're sparked out. I love it. I love your energy, but we'd appreciate is if you let the student teacher answer, and I like your input. Don't worry about that. You know,
I got you. I am you though. Reflection. Remember that. I am you and you are me. Don't let it mess with your energy because it's all a test.
Okay, if you mute your mic though, so that I can I'll get to our sister's question. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, Tauta. Yeah, so Zamalta, I hope you heard that. That is essentially, yeah, so you will merge into your counterpart and you become as one being. And then as you elevate in degrees, you also meet another counterpart, and it continues like that until you become one, merge back into all. As Errol was explaining, you become one, essentially.
Oh, okay. So there's more than one counterpart?
Yeah, because you have your multi-dimensional being. So this is just one aspect of you, the physical aspect. Yeah. But as you go through the different dimensions, there's also aspects of you there. Okay.
Oh, I see. So is it like because there's the multiverse, so you had a universe, so the triverse, and so we have counterparts in each universe? Is that what it is? I'm just trying to understand because I wasn't really clear when I heard the update, so I was just like, huh? So I was just looking for somebody to answer it just for clarity purposes. So if somebody did ask, I could explain it. But
there's a student brother who's gonna elaborate further.
Tamal, yeah. To build, if you may allow me. Sometimes we look at it in a complicated way, but if you think about the way the master teacher explained it, if you stood in front of a mirror and you had mirrors around you, behind you, in front of you, to the side of you, you will see multiple views in the mirrors. And it's the same way that when you put light through a prism, how it separates into different fractals. So when we're looking at ourselves, we're actually fractals, and those fractals are in different dimensions. So he explained that if you were to study yourself looking in a mirror for a long time, really study, and you start to think to yourself, who's the real one? Is it the one looking at the one in the mirror, or the one looking out from the mirror to you? You see, and as you do that, you will see that there are actually two separate beings. So when we talk about you being a physical being, a spiritual being, an etheric being, plasmatic being, etc., you start to see that your soul, or the difference between you and the physical, will be very clear. This is why he said that the soul is always trying to get away from the bacteria that surrounds it, which you call your body. So when you're in a car or you're on top of a building, you feel that urge, like,
I wonder how long it take me to don't drop that there.
Yeah. And so these are all explaining. So when we're going back to the whole point of you being upside down, it's just your other beings that exist in the other dimensions. And as Usia was saying, you come here and you take on the 180 degrees of your disagreeable side, to the 180 degrees of your, what you call agreeable, and one has to dominate the other. And the one that dominates wins. So in effect, you become a 360-degree being that has conquered the other side. And it's the same process that happens when you move on. So this is what the brother was saying about burning out your desires. Because if in the physical world, let's say your 180-degree disagreeable wants to smoke cigarettes, drink alcohol, go to parties, do all the low vibrational stuff, when you burn out all those desires and you no longer partake of that, then your agreeable, or the 180 agreeable side, has conquered that side of you. It's the same with your personalities, that you have your agreeable ancestors and the disagreeable ones, and you've got to try and subdue the ones who were influencing you to do the disagreeable things. So then when you move on to the next realm, when you cross over, you have the same way you have your 360 degrees now, because you conquered the one on the 180 side, and the 360 against the 360 agreeable, disagreeable, and the same thing happens. And if the 360 disagreeable, or sorry, agreeable conquers the disagreeable, you become 720 being, and so forth, as you progress up in the different realms in existence. I hope that helps. Taiwan.
Zach, that did help. I appreciate it.
Right, I've just been kicked out of Clubhouse.
Really?
Yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, the month.
I have no idea what's just happened there. Yeah, okay, sorry. Yes, sister. Yeah. Greetings, Robert.
About mirror neurons in the brain and how they help us to experience empathy. I'm trying to be sensitive here. So in terms of how people, different families may have different gifts. So some people may have a particular gift that kind of comes through. Others may have a different type of gift. What would be, number one, what would be the way to sort of cultivate that in this, within Wu-Sabat culture? And number two, is there a way to also kind of cross, if you don't have a particular gift, how do you cultivate that in yourself? I'm talking, I don't know how to really describe, I don't want to go into too much detail, but to maybe just in terms of the mirror neurons and how we're able to communicate with one another.
So say, for instance, mirror neurons, if I'm communicating to you in a particular tone, yeah, your brain will resonate with that frequency, and it will mirror literally me. So we'll be in a very calm and in a conducive way, and we can communicate much easier, and the flow of energy will be easy. Yeah. So now you're asking, is that the gift you're asking about, or you're asking that if people have certain gifts?
Yes, I think there's a different level. So you can also
as an empath.
The empath,
right?
The empath.
Right.
Certain things. So
okay.
Is that just a trait that would run down through certain people, or would it be
okay.
I know that we used to have these gifts of entirety within all of us?
Yeah.
Is that something we're trying to get back to, or is it just a case of it's more of a collective, community-based understanding of those gifts? So you have this and you have this, and we come together to use them as a collective, rather than.
I hear you. It's a bit of both. Yeah. Something's happening. It's like it's cut off. I don't know how it happened. I was going to read a passage, and then it just said you've been locked out. Oh, you are the future influencer in natural nature. Okay, we'll get back to that. So being that you're an empath, okay, or any of those gifts in the gospel, have you read any of our publications?
Yes.
So have you read the Gospel of Yanun to the Sacred Feminine?
No.
Okay. In there, he explains that there was 18 gifts. Okay, 9 male, 9 female. And in that, some of us have inherited more than one gift. So we could be an empath. We could also be somebody who can be telepathic, etc. essentially, when you cultivating these gifts and you realize that it actually works, and you're then making it and harnessing it, you can do it as an individual to help your community, or you can teach others to activate that gift. So within the realms of Wu-Sabat, we teach that you have those gifts in you because we are a combination of all our ancestors. So some of us have more than one gift now in this day and time. And you can help others to cultivate their gift by helping them embrace it, as opposed to looking at it like it's witchcraft or some kind of obia or some kind of voodoo, or you see what I'm saying? Because ultimately, most of the time, females, for instance, are very intuitive, you know, and it's because they're in touch with certain forces that allows them to have that intuition. Now, they became your oracles in ancient times because that's who we would go to so that they could see and tell you about what's going to take place on the planet. I'll give you an example. Ya Asantua, yeah, in Ghana, she was like that type of person. And when she warned them about the British, you with me, and she fought against the British because she was in tune with certain forces or ancestors that were able to communicate to her. So there are parts of you that you can harness, cultivate, and you can teach it to others so that it can be activated in them. Or as an individual, you can also teach others how, sorry, as an individual, you can also be the focal point, the go-to person that we'll all come to. But yeah, it's like different qualities are within us now. So it's not necessarily just one, it could be more than one now. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
The clubhouse class isn't even on.
I know, I have no idea. I'm glad. Can you just start a clubhouse? Just you are the influencer. Use the same title. Yes. Any other questions? You have a question, sister?
No.
Oh, okay. All right, just putting it back. Yeah, any questions in Zoom at the moment? I'm trying to reactivate Clubhouse. Something has happened on here. And any questions on Zoom? Oh, Sheldon, I see your hand up. Sorry. Sheldon, you have a question? Okay, Sheldon disappeared. Any other question?
Rahubat.
Rahubat.
I do have a question, kind of like piggybacking off of what you spoke of about the sister Ya Santaway. I know their culture, they practiced they dealt with the Ifa.
Okay, that's Nigeria, but yeah, I understand. Go on.
Yes,
Yeah, it's still animism, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to, because I don't quite understand. I know the master teacher said that we don't dabble in like voodoo and stuff like that because it's been tainted, or that wasn't our original not religion, but our original ritual, our original I don't know how else to say it, practices. So could you just kind of like give a breakdown?
Yeah, we
of when like Yoruba and all that came in and who brought it in. I just want a
you mean the sense of how it got corrupted, you mean?
Tour.
Okay, yeah. So Ifa is the animism that was practiced in Nigeria. Okay. And those deities over the Ifa is what the Nigerians would be obviously calling and communicating to. So how it got then corrupted is when the invasion of your Arabs and invasion of your Hindus along the coastline, and when they came into the hinterlands or into the mainland Nigeria and other parts like Benin, etc., the heavy influence Islam brought about your corruption and brought about the various blood sacrifices, etc., into Ifa. So it was during the slave trade, and you know that's when it really predominantly happened. But prior to then is when the Asiatic Dravidians, when they migrated in, they brought in their customs, and those customs was infused into the Ifa tradition. Does that make sense?
Well, wait, so because I know they practice Hinduism, but before Hinduism, I'm just trying to be clear. So
Yeah. So yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Go
No.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Also, Hinduism, I would think would have been their original practice, spiritual practice,
Yep.
right? Because from what I understand, that they came from a different, their overlords came from a different planet.
That's right. The Hindus.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so you're saying that once the I'm assuming the Caucasus Nadu kind of invaded the Hindu and different parts of the world, they brought in their
practices. That's
their
right.
practices.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it corrupted everybody's.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so it became more blood worship, sacrifices, and calling onto their forces. So, for instance, they introduced what the master explained is like, for instance, when you're saying Obatala, yeah, saying
Sure.
Oba Ta'ala, which is the Saudi Arabian god that was in the Kaaba, for instance. So within the practices of the Arabs, who are really the Dravidians and Turks, etc., those spirit forces got infused into the Ifa divination. You see, and then from there they started to introduce over periods of time like I said, the blood sacrifices and the alcohol and the liquor pouring onto certain deities. So what has been explained is that those deities are not necessarily the Ifa, which are more on the positive side. These are negative extraterrestrials going into the Pleiadians and the Anunnaki, who are blood worshippers.
Wow. Wait.
Or blood, they use blood sacrificing, should I say?
Okay. So just for my own clarification, so that because I know the Caucasus Nadu, they came from two different regions, would be Turkey and Norway or Norwegian area. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Caucasus Nadu originally, the Caucasus are excellent. Yeah, the Caucasus Nadu were originally from the Caucasus Mountains.
Well,
okay, so they came in as Celtics, so those Celtics in the Caucasus regions, when they migrated, they also went into parts of Asia or India and they mixed in there. You see, so there's been a lot of mixing in prior to even the invasion of excuse me, the invasion of Africa. And then it's all these practices is the Anunnaki, one side of the Anunnaki, which is the Enlil side, who were into the blood sacrifices, etc. And from those ancient rituals, got passed down and mixed in with the Nigerian divination known as Ifa. You see, and then it became known as Yoruba.
okay.
Yeah, so it was that mixture, but there's still the divination of the Ifa that's still being practiced. But when you go into the Yoruba, what the masters explain is that if you're not related to those beings, be careful what you are calling on, because they can latch onto you and they can actually use you, even though it looks like they're helping you, but they're using you in order to trap you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Total.
I'm gonna try and find. Do we have 13 plus 13? I'm trying to find. There's more elaboration on bless you. 13 plus 13 mitochondria, but I can't find it. Is that in that book? If you have the 13 plus 13 mitochondria, it goes into in that book. If you have the actual facts.
I do. I'll reread it.
Okay. I'll take that theater for. Any Questions on Zoom, Clubhouse? Sorry about people on Clubhouse. I don't know what happened there, but I lost you. I'm glad you're back. So Rahubat again.
Rahubat, Zamal.
Rahubat.
Just to make it clear, that's 18 plus 18. Yeah.
18 plus 18. Yeah, that's the one. Total. 18 plus 18. All right. Okay.
Yeah, I had a question. If I may ask.
Go ahead, Zamal.
Yeah. Did the master teacher ever say which tribes of Nigeria were the you, of course the Yoruba, but is there any other tribes that's affected, or it's really hard to say
Yeah, it's hard to say.
because they're mixed
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
Do you know any Zamal that they infiltrated to bring about the practice? What in the different tribes that they infiltrated in Nigeria from the Ifa? Do you know any names? Oh, the question was, do you know are there any tribes that we may aware of? The master explained that got infiltrated from the Ifa, and then the mixing of the wrong practices, the blood sacrifice, etc. Yeah, I haven't got any that I can say from the top of my head, Zamal. Rahubat, Zamal, you there? Oh, he's gone.
Sure.
Okay.
Tawa Antak, Zamal.
Antaka Theater 4. Antaka Theater 4. Any questions on Zoom, Clubhouse, or should I continue reading from Reflection and Projection?
Zamal, I did see Sheldon with his hand up. I don't know
Yeah,
if
yeah, he disappeared. Yeah.
I don't know if he's answer his question.
Back, Jamal. Sorry, I'm back now.
Oh, okay, Rahubat.
Technical difficulties.
Okay. Rahubat, Sheldon.
Hi. I might have missed it, but when we was talking about food and blessing it before we eat it, so it has more nutritional value and helps us more and stuff. What was it we were supposed to say over the food, or are we just supposed to like give it positive affirmations or something?
Yeah, because part of the energy that you put towards anything is your intentions. So if your mental frequency intentions are sincere, yeah, and what the master explained, that everyone's food doesn't taste the same, because once you get that pot of food or rice or whatever, you create an auric field around your food. Yeah, an aura. And that aura, that's why your food might seem like you're looking at somebody that's like, right, they're really enjoying their food, man. Do you know what I mean? Because they create an auric field around it and they're enjoying it while you thinking. So it's the same process. So it's your intentions and the frequency that you put towards and the sincerity into the food. And as I said, when you create an affirmation, it's literally creating an affirmation, but there is a particular prayer in the goal book, which, like I said, requires updating that you can use. I don't know whether you've got the goal book or had access to it, but if you can get it, then that is something that you can use as well. Okay.
So being happy and aware that my food is going to nourish me in a proper way, and just being excited about that and just becoming and being healthy should just make the food do what it's supposed to do. And
that's right.
That's what I'm supposed to do, basically.
Yeah, because there's in everything you create I can use like a quantum entanglement with. And then as Ken was explaining, there's multiple, or I touched on multiple dimensional use. You see what I'm saying? So this knowledge, or this or food or thing that we're eating, whether it's knowledgeable food or spiritual food or physical tangible food that you consume, what you're doing, you're always making a quantum or an entanglement or energy fusion with it. You see, that's why the saying, you are what you eat, because essentially what you're taking in becomes part of you. Yeah. So the same thing as when you bless your food with that energy, it becomes a part of you, and it enriches you, especially if you're eating, healthy food.
So with that being said now, previously I've eaten meat for many years, and when I'm in the gym or when I play rugby, sometimes I growl like an animal, to be quite honest with you. So like before I may go into a scrum or something, or before I push some weights, I may growl in like anger or anticipation for the fight or physical stress I'm about to put on my body.
Okay.
Would you, and I've heard that when you eat, like say like a predator or a lion, you somewhat get the I forgot the word, not habits, but the
animalistic nature.
Somewhat, yeah. I guess, of an animal. Is that a real thing? I'm growling in the gym and in rugby because I'm eating.
Well, I don't know about that aspect. I can't comment on that particular aspect, but you do have animal natures that can be exercised from you. Like, you know, when somebody's angry and they beat their chest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have animal aspects of you that is part of your animal nature. Because remember, we're also part God and part animal. You with me? And there's aspects of us that comes out sometimes, like when somebody's sneaky or somebody's, and we give them labels, don't we? You say like he's sneaky like a snake or a fox. You with me? Or he's as cunning and wise as an owl, or these other animal aspects of us, is because we have the animal nature that's connected to us. So in animism, for instance, you can also have the ability to communicate with these particular beings or animals because they're also connected to us. So you could actually be lost somewhere, if you're with me, and certain animals that you in tune with can help guide you home. You understand? So it's that kind of thing. But in the sense of you know, growling in the gym and that, I really can't comment.
It's not like the something that's gonna draw mad attention. It's like it's a mellow one, just slightly under my
All
breath.
right. Like you're psyching yourself up kind of thing, yeah?
Sure, yeah.
Oh,
Like
okay. Well,
if you're close enough, you might hear, but it's not like mad, like
Oh, okay. Zamal's got a build on that, yeah.
Yeah, just a quick one. We just want to be clear that we're not saying to people to get a piece of pork and take it. So my intentions for
very careful. Yeah, we're gonna be clear. Yeah.
What I did want to touch on was, as you say, the reptilian nature that we get is most people that aggression they need is from eating meat, and that's why you'd see a lot of people that are like boxers or people that do a lot of aggressive sports will actually, you know, eat a lot of like meat and stuff. But the point I did want to touch on was one of the latest updates was saying that what people are considering miracles in the Bible, for example, is really us using alchemy. That's where they get it from. And so when you're saying alchemy, that's what we're essentially talking about, where, you know, Jesus was able to multiply, you know, the fishes and stuff like that. And when we're saying that what we're doing to the food is really alchemizing it, so we're able, like Wu-Sabat have said, it's about the energy, and everything breaks down into energy. So we're literally transforming it from one state to another. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, actually, thank you for that, Bill, because even in saying that, what you have to realize is that those particles that they translate into eventually, they are literally your ancestors in the form of what we teach and the masters taught us, brain newts. Yeah, there's certain etheric higher forces known as brain newts, which actually activate the neurons in your brain and your synapses. Do you understand? So this is again the science and the black chemistry that we are practicing in this day and time. So it's not just on a shallow level. Once you understand that, that's what we say, that Wu-Sabat is the science within science. So even though there's one aspect of it, there's a lower, deeper, more and pronounced aspect. As for instance, when you talk about you look at Nut in the hieroglyphs, and Nut is got stars on her, and you say Nut is the sky, as they translate as no, Nut means the expanse of the universe. You with me? She's the actual womb, the mother of the universe, because we knew that the female is the mother and she produces children. So there's sciences within sciences that we knew. You got a question, my brother?
Yeah, good question about the dolphins. How does that also relate to human beings? How does, if human beings are using 7% of their brains, how much brain percentage is the dolphin using?
I honestly can't remember how much percentage. I mean, that's just something that they say that humans use between 5 to 7% of their brain. You with me? But using your brain doesn't mean you're the consciousness of you. It's just you're using your brain. You could just use your brain to just get about day-to-day life. Yeah.
If that relates to the dolphin, then what that happened to the actual, what's it called? The dolphin, the actual fish with it, the fish animal. Catholic Church and stuff.
How does the
White up.
I don't well the Dogon, okay, or Dagon, okay, was talking about beings that came from the water. They were aquatic beings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dagon was, I think, if a Canaanite deity. So could someone mute their mic, please? Yeah, so Dagon was a Canaanite deity that was worshipped. I know, Chaldean, beg your pardon. Yeah, so that Chaldean deity, known as Dagon, was a fish deity. Basically talking about the reptilians that lived in the water and would come out and teach. You see, so how it got into the practicing of Christianity is that they recognized that this Dagon was a creature that was teaching and was the head of their race.
Okay, then can you just check this thing for me because I can't get my audio to come on.
Hello? Okay. Yeah. So so in the practice of the Chaldeans, that then eventually became your monotheistic practices, they took that story of Dagon and they created the mitre, which is known in this, which is in the shape of the fish that the Pope wears. You with me? So those Dagons or the Canaanite deities or the Chaldean deities, they became your how can I put it? They became your icons in the Greek and in the Greek mythology and the Roman mythology. Yeah. And so that's the link between the two. So they used that because then the Pope then became the head of the church. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, which represents Dagon, which was the head of the reptilians that was teaching in those people. Yeah. So that's the link.
Now they got the monopoly on it. You know, the church will be the whole head.
Yeah, exactly. But it's really the same teachings. It's really a child because this is all going back to the reptilians that came from the waters. Those are your draconians. You see what I'm saying? Because there was two types. There was your ones that are coming to the Dogons, they were the agreeable, and there was ones that are coming to people like the Russians, etc. Because when you see that chart in design, intelligent design and divine design, it tells you about certain beings that came to certain cultures. So the Draconians came to the Russian, the Khazars, etc. And from there, they gave them teachings. You see, and then from those teachings, it migrated and filtered down into the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church. Yeah, so there's been a lot of influencing done by different beings from different star systems. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Were you going to ask a question, my brother?
Okay. Additions to what?
Sorry, Zamal. There's been
okay, somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see. Yeah, there's a question online, but the brother's just gonna touch on something, and then I'll get to your question, Zamalta.
Wow.
No, initially it was the gentleman here
talking
about miracles.
Oh, okay.
And my background is, I was in the church.
Okay.
And I had a profound God experience.
Okay.
So for me, when I don't think everything can be explained by science in that sense. And I think if you haven't experienced certain things, obviously there are ways you can explain it through science. But for me personally, my testimony is that I had a profound experience with God. So I understand that there is an alchemistic way of doing stuff, but then there's also a God-induced experience for what I experienced.
Let me read up on something that I was we have a
because that was my query really, in the sense that it wasn't something that someone had said to me. I think if I'd have been one of those persons where someone preached and I put my hand up and I had a conversion from someone giving me the gospel, I don't think I would have been a believer based on what I've experienced. But such was my going directly to God, such was my profound experience with God. I felt a supernatural change inside of me, which was, I'll give you an example. I felt like the experience of when someone goes, you see the light, and a light beam comes in, and I didn't realize how much pain and how much the experience of having a negative father figure in my life had. So I just remember the Spirit being poured into me. And as it's being poured into me, I just see like the Terminator holes, like when you've got holes in your system.
Yeah.
As it's pouring in, it's pouring out, squelching out in the holes. And as more went in, I saw where I was being healed. And that's when I realized how damaged I was from negative inputs throughout my childhood.
Okay.
So that's why I feel that sometimes some things can be explained scientifically, and I appreciate all the aspects and some of the things you say resonates, but there is still, I still believe that there's a miracle working being.
Let me read something to you. I was reading from Reflection and Projection, which is a book that was has been put out by a master teacher, and it's called Reflection and Projection. Our Salal race always find their way to leaders, teachers, prophets, Messiah, Mahdi, Allahs, God, laws that are never of our own full-blooded race, Nagar Nadu, Negroid. We're the only race that doesn't have a deity of our own. I'm saying that to say that most of the time when we misinterpret or when we see or understand things like God, Allah, etc., these are forces that are not our own. You understand? And because of the indoctrination, we've been made to think that we should embrace it as our own. So the concept of God that we've been given is a concept that is a European concept. You with me?
I hear you that,
Yeah.
but this, for me, I've spent, I had a powerful God. I grew up not trusting anybody. Similarly, I remember being in front of a group of Christians and said, look, put your hands up if you wanna accept Christ into your life. I didn't know them. So I remember praying, let me have what they've got. And that's when I saw the light appear. I didn't know what happened to me.
I'm gonna
time,
yeah.
And constantly for me, I spend a large portion of my time questioning, putting my faith belief on the line to search and understand the processes and all of that. And I understand like the dynamics of what you're talking about in that, you know, we've got whether you say I refer to it as God or the Almighty or you know the higher power.
Let me just read something to you. That's why I said, because
just add this one bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
I understand that aspect of that. You got the beings, you got those whether they, you know, in the European terminology referred to as angels or the enlightened ones who come down. Some people call them the Narki or the Watchers or vice versa, and who then presented with information, knowledge, like Freemasonry, Illuminati. You've got all those different sides, whether, you know, depending on the bloodline or vice versa. I understand that. Where if you look at the Book of Enoch or the others, where it talks about what you were referring to about the those beings, the giants, that some of them became had sex with female males, females, and also creatures of other flesh. And they became sea creatures, mermaids, and all those different aspects is what you're talking about. And like you're saying, the worship of the day god, and you see that on Starbucks as an emblem that they use and stuff like that. So as more knowledge and more information is coming out, it is the unraveling and understanding who is what and the powers that people align themselves to in terms of knowledge. And when you look at Egypt, you can see, yeah, again, makes sense where you've got the animals where people are.
Yeah,
not just trying to break down where Mike. So
yeah. I understand. I think I grasp where you're coming from. This book here, what it explains is this: when we're born into a society that is not our own, we've embraced something. Excuse me, don't know what's happening today.
I've got some.
Yeah.
I've got a bottle of water.
I'm sorry, it's gonna get water for me.
Brand new. Oh, no.
Appreciate it, my brother. It's been out there. We were out there today, and it's 6:10.
There's a lot of pollen out there.
So, Tautak, Appreciate it. The influence or the way that it affects us, okay, I was explaining earlier about epigenetics. This is passed on from generation to generation. It's also passed on in your mind's eye. So the things that your parents, your grandparents may have visualized and embraced is locked in their DNA. Yeah?
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that.
Okay? It gets passed on down into you. So when you are exposed to certain words, it triggers a memory. You see what I'm saying? That memory may not necessarily be your memory. It may be an ancestor's memory. But what happens is it gets projected in your mind's eye as being yours. So what we're effectively saying when we're teaching this science is that you have beings that are called and resonate on those frequencies. You see what I'm saying? And when you're saying God, Allah, etc., those beings, what they have the ability to do is they influence the way you think and behave. So as much as you may see a light and all these miracles happening to you, and you're saying that it can't be explained scientifically, sometimes these beings have a way. So I'll read from verse 209. No, from verse 208 in reflection projection. To a mental in Taba'uf resurrection, the Thanat Taba'uf, second resurrection, is the mental and physical Taba'uf resurrection, the new being. And future influence in the Fatir al-Fatah, natural nature, as Musbatu Sabians. You become full in power, purpose, and principles. Verse 211. Wu-Sabat is a new birth, new Ka'ah spirit, a new you. You reject all other Hazabat cultures and even their Milsan tongues, their tones. Yeah, that's the part I'm emphasizing. You reject their tongues and their tones because in you embracing those concepts, it's resonating a frequency in you, which is creating a reality. Does that make sense? Yeah? You accept your own, your ancestors, Nasabu, relatives, Mulslafu. You take control of all the spirits inside you, inside your Akal mind and outside your Khatat body. You take control of that. Now that you know this information, you are now becoming that one being that is in control. Because before you weren't in control. Many of us are not in control, even though we live a day-to-day life and go to work, etc. Most of the time we're being influenced by the thoughts of others. You see what I'm saying? Wu-Sabat is your salvation in these days and times when natural nature is claiming back the planet Earth from all the unnatural nature. So the unnatural nature is those concepts of God and those other things that we've been exposed to as children, going to church, being exposed to the images. Because if you studied psychology, you know that you have a what they call the conscious mind, and then you've got the subconscious mind, yeah? And you show you as an iceberg. And that subconscious mind, which is the below mind, is where they tap into. Now, these are locked in what is known as better word, vaults. Yeah, they're vaults that are locked in your mind. And sometimes what your mind does, it activates those vaults or it accesses those vaults. And because of the trigger words, like God, Allah, Jehovah, etc., and those memories are triggered, which opens those vaults that project an image into your mind's eye. This is what's taking place. And now that you've projected that image, you're seeing these glorious things happening to you because you've accepted that as your reality. So what we're saying within Wu-Sabat is you have to learn to let go of those things and reject them, because the moment you start to open yourself up, you say, well, God is the one that did this. Know that the God that you're talking about are these extraterrestrials, these Anunnaki, that are, now you've opened yourself up to them, they can claim your soul. Because ultimately that's what they want. They want your soul to claim it. So they give you the titles, God, Yahweh, Allah, etc. And then because of the memories of your ancestors who are now in you, when you access those memories or those thoughts, because how do you know, for instance, something's hot? Do you know what I mean? As a baby, you know automatically to flinch away, your hand away when you touch something hot. It's because it's programmed in you. But those programming is not necessarily positive programming about who you are. It's programming based on what the European or whatever concepts that they've embedded in us over such a long period of time that has become a natural way of living. Do you understand? So we have to learn to remove and reject those things and start calling on our right tones and the right frequencies. So when we're saying God now, instead of saying God, we say Muslafu, ancestors, because ultimately those are the beings that are helping you. Your ancestors have been waiting for eons, do you know what I mean, for thousands of years for them to access your mind's eye. But right now, the mind's eye that you're looking through from is not you per se, but for most of us, is through the eyes and lenses of the European or the Arabs. You see what I'm saying? Or the Jews or the Israelites or whatever. We're looking through their mind's eye. So our reality, as the title of this class, part of the title is that we're not influencing our future no more. They're the ones now influencing our future because we keep calling and giving them the power. Does that make sense? Yeah. And we have to learn to reject those things. It's a slow process, but we now call on, when we're saying, you know, whatchamacallit, start praying on God or whatever, replace it now with auntie this, uncle that, grandmother, because they're the ones that have been watching and keeping you away from certain things. But we misinterpreted that because of religion. Yes, my sister. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand because I think it's so difficult when you've had a experience that's very, very powerful in the hospital attributed. So I don't understand what Mother is saying.
Definitely, yeah.
I just wanted to ask a question about karma in
Okay.
relation to I'm not sure how the master teacher puts it in terms of the threefold rule. In that we have to, when we're given truth, or when we see truth, or there's a rule, you know, universal law that truth must be given.
Okay.
But it can be under the guise of another cover. It can be given under the guise of a lie. I wanted to ask, I don't know, I've got quite a mind where I like to sort of understand things.
That's what we like. we want you to have that kind of mind.
Has to be given, or how much of a lie can be given with the truth. So for example, if one was to watch a film and it was about something that was, you know, happening in 10 years time and predictive programming, how much of that particular film, for example, would be truth, how much would be a lie? Is there like a particular way that it works in terms of that universal law? Or is it just a case of we have to understand what the truth is first to understand and uncover where the lies are at? But I just wanted to find out what exactly is that law and how does it work?
The principle of reality, okay, is utilizing the utilization of sound right reasoning. That's your spiritual science. Your highest mental faculty is sound right reasoning, okay, coupled with the memories that you have that's already encoded in you. So your DNA has memory, and those memories are connected to your ancestors. You see, so when you're watching certain films, because you have something known as the third eye, yeah, you know about the third eye, right? You're familiar with that. The third eye is the connection to your soul. And your soul connects to your etheric being. You have another portion of your knowledge as etheric being. Your etheric being has a connection to the universe. So the linking into that and being able to then discern what is right from wrong, your eye is open to those little things that some people may not spot, but you're like, yeah, I can see that. I can see where they're going with this. I can see, just what I'm saying. So you have that discernment because it's already in you, but it's being triggered by certain images that you may see on the movies, etc. Like for instance, The Matrix. When everybody watched The Matrix, they kind of like already instinctively knew that's where we're going. Do you know what I mean? And now in this day and time, everybody knows we're in a matrix. Most people know we're in a matrix, you know, and we're living as a constructed reality. And that constructed reality, unless you're able to wean yourself and break out of that, you'll be forever stuck in it. See what I'm saying? Yeah.
What I'm trying to understand though is that is a film that has been, as far as I understand, Sophia Stewart wrote that film, she wrote that film.
Yeah.
Based on how, channeling that film.
Yeah.
And it was then given to
the brothers, the Tchaikovsky brothers. Exactly. That's right. Yeah.
And they were then able to bring that to us.
That's right.
So within that, there's been a filter.
That's right. Yeah.
So my question is, in terms of that filter that's been given to us, you can look at it as that, okay, have your third eye open, making sure that you're looking at it from an objective reality. But if you weren't to have yours third eye open, how much of that film can be a lie in terms of, because
if your third eye wasn't open, you just see it as a movie.
You see it as a film, but
yeah.
In terms of karma, and they told you what it is,
yeah,
and they can say, okay, well, we've told you. So if you want to then buy into a false reality, that is your soul online.
That's right.
But like, I don't know, I just feel like there should be another way of being able to discern, okay, how much of, so for example, the film Sinners, people watch it as an entertainment.
Yeah.
People can see it as like, okay, this is actually what's happening here and now. But within that, there must be a karmic law to say, okay, well, you can give the truth, but it has to be in this way, or is it just, am I just thinking about it in a way that's not? I don't know if I'm making myself.
No, I think I understand your question, because if you're talking about karma or things like retribution, things that are going to come back to you if you don't do it, you don't listen to it or pay attention to it and then act on it, then there's going to be whatever's what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, there's going to be repercussions to your actions. That's what you're really asking, aren't you? Are there repercussions to your actions?
The power to put these films forward to us, how much do they have to tell us in terms of the lie, and how much do they have to
they do it. They don't have to tell you, because it's all being channeled, like you said. The filtering is coming from extraterrestrials. Most of these movies that we watch, ET movies or science fiction movies, it's extraterrestrials who are influencing their children. You see what I'm saying? Now, how they teach their own is through the movies. You see? The thing is, you're sleeping deity. The reason why you are questioning the way you are, you're not entirely comatose. You're just asleep. You understand? Then there's those who are totally gone and just see it as a movie. But the awakening spirit, or the dormant energy, the soul that's in you is conscious, is beginning to awake. And that awakening is why you're able to discern the reality from the fiction. That's the reason why they call it science fiction. You see what I'm saying? There's fact within the fiction, or another word, believe. Be, lie, Eve. You see what I'm saying? They'll give you a little bit of because how do you rope somebody in, as you said? You give them a little dose of the truth. Sorry, a little dose of the lie, and mix it with the truth. You see, so you're drawn in. They know that we're spiritual people. They know that we're attracted to certain things. They know that we vibrate in a particular frequency. This they know about us. It's just that we don't know about it. So it's easy for us to gravitate towards spiritual things or churches, etc., because we can connect in some shape or form. And so it's easy for them to then manipulate that situation. And then your actions, okay, that karma you're talking about is if you go against your natural nature, then you're going to get the karmic reaction. So this is what they've done now. They've made us go against our natural nature. We're no longer functioning. We do things unnatural to us. Certain practices that we were doing, like, I can give an example, waking up and thanking our ancestors. We don't do it no more. We give the reference to something else other than ourselves. You with me? That kind of thing, pouring libation, burning sage in your house, incense. Those are practices, rituals that we practice. We used to do rituals of tones and chanting. You're supposed to, at least, like in our culture, Wu-Sabat, we chant 3 p.m., we chant during the day, because it's all about tones, vibration, and frequencies. And they know this. They know that we vibrate in certain wavelengths. So they constantly emitting through their TV, their radio, their music, etc. And this is all affecting us. But because we've been so untuned, we're now against natural nature. And being that we're no longer in tune with nature, the karmic effect that's going to happen is that more of us are going to end up dying. More of us are going to suffer, because we're literally suppressing our own selves. You see what I'm saying? Because you have the individual karma, but know that there's something called a morphogenetic field. You ever heard of that? Yeah, that morphogenetic field is that you have your resident, that's your being, then you have your ancestors and you have your immediate family. So when you hear about the sins of the family or the sins of the father, is because whatever the father or the mother did, it resonates into that morphogenetic field. That's the karma. Does that answer your question? Or is it still confusing? Yeah. Just mellow on it. Okay, marinate on it. All right. No problem. Yes, Mama.
Amal, was we gonna come back to this?
Sorry, there's a question online and then we'll come back to you. Yes, Amal, go ahead.
We talked before about fractals of ourselves in different universes, and there was a mention of reunification. So I was wondering, at what point does that happen? Like when I die, I reunite with the other fractals, or like how and when?
The best practice is to do it while in an existent state without dying. This is what the master is trying to teach us, that we never did die before. What happened was that as you leave the suit, the skin suit, and you become an energy being, you merge with that other energy. You see what I'm saying? Because really and truly, the positive and negative, which has become gender, where you see male and female, or be translated into the gender aspect, okay, is that you have positive and negative energies. So those energies then become one energy. Yeah. And then as you like 180 and 180 become 360, you meet another 360 and then you merge, which is also positive and negative. Does that make sense? So you don't have to necessarily have to die in order to become a 360 or 720 being. The whole journey is for you to be actually able to transform yourself into an energy being so that you can take the physical, the spiritual, and the soul with you to higher realms. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay, I think I follow what you're saying.
Okay. If it's not clear, please ask away. Please probe.
Is that
You're saying that I don't have to wait until I die, number one. I guess as I elevate my consciousness, my vibrations, raise my vibrations, you're saying then that I can reunite with these factors of myself.
That's correct. These different aspects of yourself. That's right. So, like for instance, you see, you have like, if you have two hydrogen atoms, for instance, yeah, and the atoms, their vibrational frequency sped up. The electrons around them move to a higher state.
Right.
Yeah, that electrons that move to a higher state, they also merge with that other electron. So it's not like they're separate from each other; they become one. Likewise with you, if you raise your vibration to a higher state, you also will merge with that being that's also raised themselves to that higher state, and you merge as one.
But then I thought the factors were in different dimensions.
Yeah, that's right. So for instance, water is still water. In this state, yeah, it can also be liquid, and it can be ice or solid and liquid, yeah? But as you agitate or speed up the molecules, it can then convert into gas, a gaseous state. And from that gaseous state becomes etheric state. But that ether will eventually merge with itself in another dimension. You see what I'm saying? And move on and on. Likewise with you, you have to be turned from a solid to a liquid to a gas. And that's what the master teacher is here to do, is to help us and teach us to be able to turn ourselves. Ultimately, what's the reason for being able to turn into a solid, liquid, and gas? Is the fact that there's certain things that are there's calamities that are going to start taking place on this planet. And just like in other worlds or other solar systems, when there's going to be a disaster or a planet is about to die or be destroyed, they have to remove their children off the planet. You understand? So our job is to be able to transform and transfigure into a craft known as, in ancient time, as the Bennu, or a craft ship, a ship-like craft that will be able to leave this planet and go into another dimension. You see, but the hardness is trying to get us to convert because we're so caught up in so many things, and we've got other people's we're mixed with other people's genetics, like other races' genetics, which is hindering our ability to transform.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you just said sparked another question, but I'm gonna stick a pin in that for second.
Okay, sure.
So as I elevate my consciousness, raise my vibrations, then I can reunite. So as I know myself now, what would let me know, or how would I change so I know that I have, say, reunited with my version number one? See what I'm saying? Like what would be different about me so that I would know, hey, okay, number one is inside, or if you want to put it like that.
Bliss, more contentment, more at peace.
Okay.
Yeah. It's even when we gather together and you chant, you can feel that energy, that state of profound peace and calmness. So as you raise your vibration to that state of calmness and peace, when you merge with your other self, who's in that positive state of peace and calmness, that is what you feel. You see what I'm saying? Because you're no longer a individual, you're now part of a whole. The whole of this is that, as the brother has explained, we are fractals of the whole. And our job is to go back to becoming one being. It's just that what's happening right now is that we are all, essentially, we're all one being, and we've been made to live in different skin suits, and different cycles has produced the various shapes and sizes and features that we have. You see what I'm saying? But really and truly, the reason why we are all gathering on Zoom, Clubhouse, in this class right now is because there's a memory that you were once a supreme being, and that you were once as a unit of one being that's forgotten who they are. So that this information is to trigger that memory of who you really are, and that you're an Etherian. And Etherians, when they come together, they become one being. And some become even sons, to the point where they're actually sons, because the sun is an Etherian. And the sun is actually a parent. That's our mother and fathers, who are actually stars. This is the reality known as quantum physics. Okay, that is teaching what we're teaching, and the esoteric knowledge is that your ancestors are actually stars in the sky. The stars that you see are actually beings that give you energy and speak to you in the form of outformation, okay, in wave form, energy form. And then if you are heightened to that energy, you can absorb that energy and actually convert it by way of your brain into messages that the sun is constantly giving. And we can also hear or receive information from the multiverses about who you are and what you should do and the time or place you should be in and how to transform yourself. But because we're bombarded with so many different distractions, light, sound, energy, because they know that we're energy being. So they're doing their best. It's a concentrated effort, countlessly, daily. You're battling with your immediate life that you have to live, going to work and all those mundane things. And then on top of that, you have your spiritual aspect to also develop. So there's a lot going on. But as the masters always explain, read, study, and teach this information, spread it. Because as you practicing this information, the more you're actually changing yourself and transforming yourself, to who you really are and not what they've made us to become.
Okay, so one of the things you mentioned was peace and reuniting with a more peaceful version of myself. So then the opposite would also be true. Then there will be, let's say, a lower vibration version of me as the state of it I'm in now, who I assume is maybe or maybe not working on itself.
Well, yeah, because it's like you have the different dimensions of you. So if you decided to or not decided, but if you started doing things against your natural nature, your energy level or your vibrational frequency will lower to those realms. That's one of the reasons why the Caucasian race lost their soul. You see what I'm saying? Or the Caucasian male. Now his soul is trapped in the underworld or lower dimensions because he was mixed in, first of all, with other creatures that don't have soul. So they lost the ability to travel to the higher realms. But as if you start to lose your soul, you get dragged down and you're connected to those lower realms, and those beings there can torment you. You see, so you merge with those beings there, and they have the ability to torment you, you know?
Okay, so let's just say I am version 2. I'm on plane 2. So the version of me on plane 1, who does still have a soul, let's assume still has a soul, is also working to unite with me on plane 2, and I'm working to unite with me on plane 3.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying? In a sense, nutshell.
Yeah, you're literally raising your vibration. That's right. As
Okay.
your vibration, they raise theirs because you're all linked.
Okay, so if version of 1 on plane 1 isn't doing anything, but all the rest of us are doing, would we just drag that version along?
Yeah, because you're essentially, okay, put it this way. I'll give you another example. Your ancestors or relatives are also linked to you. And some of them are in higher realms and some of them are in lower realms. Okay. The higher ones are trying to reach to you so that you can raise your vibration to reach them. Yeah. Likewise, the ones in the lower realms, as you're studying and living Wu-Sabat and practicing your way of life, they are also getting stronger and making a direct link to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then last question. You said that the ultimate goal, in a sense, is to raise my vibrations, reunite with all factors such that I am in a state where I can leave the planet before the catastrophe. Yes?
Before the calamities take, I mean, calamities are happening now, but they're going to increase. You see, when you go back to I'm gonna refer people back to some old lectures, and the reason why I do that is because what the master teacher was teaching in, say, 1980s, 90s, etc., okay, is just an upgraded version that we're learning now in Wu-Sabat. He was always teaching this, but in the confines of whether the schools that we were going through. So if those people know and understand how the master teacher came, he came giving us Wu-Sabat. Okay, if you didn't know this, in 1960s, 1968, 67, this is what he introduced to us. But though that knowledge at that time and that cycle, it was not received very well because the questions that were being asked was more on a religious aspect. So he realized that what he was teaching, we weren't ready for it yet. So he had to embed some of the teachings into the religious schools and the questions that we were asking about religion in order to really appreciate what he has come to give. So his saying was, I came giving you what you wanted in order for you to learn what I really have to give to you, or for you to really ask those right questions to help you transform. Because essentially, you're not of this realm. You're trapped in this realm. We are trapped, not you per se, but we as beings are trapped in this realm, and we keep recycling because we haven't made the grade. If you know anything about school, especially African schools or back home in the Caribbean, if you didn't pass the first grade, you ain't going nowhere. You're staying there until you pass. If anybody knows about that. So your job is to pass the grade, be worthy enough to be able to transform and go to the higher realms and be linked in with your etheric parents, as it were. Okay. But what happened was we forgot how to do that. So we started being born. Instead of being us transforming, we started giving birth. And that birth turned into a birth cycle. And that cycle now has been repeated over 24,000 times. You see, that's the cycle that deals with your DNA. You have 24,000 genomes, and that genome is linked to the Earth cycle of 24,000 years. Okay, because the Earth matrix is actually linked into your matrix. Okay, so the whole journey is for you to learn to transform to become an etheric being. And in doing that, you become part of all, and you become a supreme being, so that you can also go to other worlds and other planets and teach this information. Because it's not just here that your ancestors are, or your relatives. You're related to other beings and other star systems as well. This is what the master is explaining to us. Which this is just one level of you, or one aspect of you. Okay, where that's coming from.
Just to make sure I get it in my mind clearly, I'm gonna use religion because that's where I came from.
Yeah.
So somebody's echoing. Anyway, when I reunite or reunify with the fractals and we are at a high enough stage to leave, I am assuming, of course, then we're leaving, our energy is leaving. Obviously, my body is staying, I guess.
No, you can, there's two aspects of you. You can, if you connected to your ancestors, it's easier for them. Okay, I'll give you another analogy. When a mother's pregnant, okay, and carrying a child for 9 months, if she eats healthily, she watches the right things, she listens to the right music, she chants, she prays, she speaks to the baby in the right tones, etc., and she's speaking her language and living Wu-Sabat, okay, that's a wholesome child. That's a holistic child because she's practiced all the things that, do you know what I mean? And potentially 99% of the time, that's going to be a holistic, a wholesome child, okay? Now that child is going to be born by doctors. You know, the doctors will help that child be born, and that mother will push the child out into this world. You with me? Likewise, your essence, your soul, or your spirit essence can also be born on the other side, where your relatives will also be waiting for you on that side, and they have to literally help you come through the other side. But the way for them to help you is they have to send somebody. That being that they've sent is so that they can help you remember who you are. And then in remembering who you are, you practice the things that are necessary so that you have a wholesome birth on the spiritual side, because you can have a stillborn or you can have a premature birth. Just like you have on this physical side, you have stillborns, you have premature birth, you have other factors that can affect the baby. Do you know what I mean? So the same thing happens on the spiritual side. You have to connect with your ancestors through these chants, through this language, through the things they eat, the things that you think of, etc. When you wake up, that's what you should be thinking on a constant, because those are the formulas and the nutrients that your spirit needs in order to be birthed in the spiritual realm. Just like your mother gives you the nutrients in her 9 months of pregnancy carrying you so that you could have a full-term baby. Is that kind of principle, you see? But this one is a do it for self thing. It's not just a, I'm going to tell you and then everything's going to, what happened because I gave you the knowledge. It's a do for self thing. You have to do it yourself. You have to practice it. That's what God does. God is responsible. God is in control. God does things that will impact on the world. God will do things that will influence the future.
Okay.
Okay, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, kind of. So, but I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, when we reunite and we're leaving, let's say I'm successful and we're leaving, in a sense, you mentioned stuff about like my ancestors being stars and the sun being an ethereal being and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, well, where am I going? Am I going planet?
These are stages. So just as I gave the analogy or the example of schools. So you started off in primary school as a child.
Right.
As you elevated, you went into, let's just, for the lack of a better, university. That's the highest degree that they have in this, and then you did your masters. They call it masters, just like how you are supposed to master your body. You with me? So you got intellectual knowledge, but you also have spiritual and mental knowledge of who you are. So that mental liberation is that you've mastered self. That's where the 180 and the 180, where you become 360. And that 360 of the mastering of space, matter, and time, learning about quantum physics, etc., is allowing you to master the physical. Once you master the physical, it's easier for you to master the spiritual. And then those two combined gives you the 720, because now you're 360 physical, 360 mental or spiritual. Combined, when you add up the two, 720 becomes the number 9, because you're a 9 ether being. So that 720 allows you to then become a master of your destiny and a master of time itself. So you're able to then transform, utilizing the right formulas, okay, to be able to leave this world when time comes. The time is here now. That's why they sent a warner. And that warner's job is to help raise us in degrees, you see, because if we gave us all the information at once, most of us, trust me, and I've experienced this, most of us have gone crazy, because it's like putting somebody straight into the socket of a plug and turning it on at full volt. It will fry some people. It doesn't help them very well. So you have to be spoon-fed the knowledge. And as you're being spoon-fed the knowledge and the practitioner of that knowledge, it's no longer, it's not just having knowledge and sounding heavy and teaching your friends and saying, I know this and I know about the Anunnaki and I know about Ethereans, etc. But you got to be practicing it. And this is part of the culture, part of the spirituality, part of all of these aspects that allows you to grow as a being, not just as an individual, but as we say, part, as part of all. Because as all, if we were to come together and become a great massive beam of energy and light, when our ancestors see that aura, they were able to say, those are our children, and be able to lift us off this realm. You see what I'm saying? While they remake or rebuild this universe, because ultimately that's what they do. They've done it before and they can do it again. But before they do that, they take some of their children of this realm and put them in another place. You see what I'm saying? So this is what the master teacher is here to do, is to wake up those who are being asleep.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome, my sister. And I hope that made sense to everybody in here.
Zamal.
Yes. Zamal Tat.
Rahubat.
Rahubat, how are you doing? Long time.
I'm trying to do my best.
Okay.
Okay, so what about the beings? Some of those beings who are still eating meat, they're supposed to be saying prayers for that meal, supposed to be a nourishment to their body.
The beings that are eating meat, is that nourishment for their bodies? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and I'm asking if you're supposed to be saying prayers over that, which that's not supposed to be a nourishment to our body.
Yeah, that's what Second was explaining, that don't misunderstand it. Like, when that means you can eat anything like pork or meat and things like that and expect that that's going to change anything or your frequency. What I'm saying is that when you're eating, because if you're a conscious being and you're aware that meat has a particular frequency and that frequency is not conducive to your natural nature, then you're supposed to eat the vegetables, etc., that are conducive for your natural nature. So the eating of meat, even if you bless it, you're still blessing it because it's still part of your matrix, and certain beings are still attracted to that. Because always remember, what we teach is that your body is the temple, and whatever you place at the altar, in the sense of what you consume, is what is attracting these beings, because you give off a certain energy. Yeah, everything gives off energy. So in the movie, the Predator, for instance, have you ever seen the Predator movie? And all it saw was just the energy and light of Arnold Schwarzenegger, let's just say, yeah, or any being that they was attacking or preying on. It wasn't that they were seeing their body; they were seeing their energy that was coming from them. Just like some creatures, like snakes, bats, etc., use certain frequency ranges or ultraviolet sight to see. Same thing. Some of these beings can see your energy that you're emitting from your body. The science that you can look up is called Kirlian photography. Yeah, so if you want to know anything, is around you, you have an electrical field, which is known as your aura. And that electrical field can extend outwards to up to 12 feet. Yeah, depending on how bright or how strong your energy is. And that's why you may walk into a room and you may not feel the energy of that person, or that you blend with that energy of that person, and you might sidestep and like this, and they, oh, sorry. If that's ever happened to you, because your energies are blended together. So this is the kind of thing that some of these extraterrestrials, they see that, and that's what they prey on. Okay.
So sad, Samuel, because for me, if you're eating meat, I don't think we should be saying any prayer over that. Because I don't.
No. Yeah, that's not what we meant. I wasn't trying to advocate anyone to eat meat. Consuming meat is not for us by natural nature. It's just that we're so mixed in now. Some of us need that nutrient because it's in them, but they can wean themselves off if they choose to. Yeah, we're not here to advocate or try and say what you do and what you do with your life. Yeah, it's all about in this Wu-Sabat culture, we have a warner and a guide. The warner warns you that there's going to be calamities and that there's viruses and these things, you must prepare yourself for them. And the guide says that this is what you need to do to stay out of their way, do this, go that way, change your dress code. For instance, when we're going through the school of Islam, he said that come out of the Islamic clothes. Before a couple of years after, that's when the Gulf War, I think, with Saddam Hussein invaded. And that's when people in Islam were attacked. Do you see what I'm saying? So these are the warnings and the guides that how he guides us. That's just one example. There's many that he's given us about there's going to be snow or disasters. Start packing and preparing yourself, move out of this place. He's done it over to us over this many decades that he's been teaching us. So we know and trust who this being is to us. Okay.
So Zamal, before you go on, so the Hindus, they perform the blood sacrifice. That is the way of life.
That's right. You have every race or species have their way of life. Yeah. And some of them have got demonic forces that work for them. And some of them have, positive forces or lack of a better, angelic forces that work for others. You with me? So for us as Nagaru, our natural way and our natural course of evolution or liberation is to link back with those natural forces, which is known as nine ether. Okay, nine ether is the highest aspect of who you are as a race of beings. And with the utilization of nine ether, what we have to realize is that we created the universes in our original state as Etherians. That's what we did. And then as time went on, through the different cycles, we then created a world where we incarnated into. But through the incarnation and the many multiple tasks that we were doing on these different dimensions, we got stuck here because we enjoyed it. And as time went on, as the cycles went on, we gave birth to other aspects of ourselves. So from the African or the Black race as the original race, we gave birth to the Dravidians. That became six ether. So what happens is nine ether after a certain time starts to die. And then when it starts to die, it gives birth to something called six ether. But every element or every formula has to have a physical representation of itself. You with me? So that representation of itself in those formulas, you have the Dravidians. And then when the Dravidians, their formula starts to die and becomes dead, that becomes the manifestation of your ghost. And that's your Caucasian race. So those were the three different root races that were on the planet at one time. Then what happened was, because we've lost our mental faculties as supreme beings, we started to mix in with our other races on the planet. And then you had beings coming from all different star systems that were literally like choosing what they could experiment with. So they took the Caucasians or the Neanderthals or other beings that and then upgraded them. Do you know what I mean? Then you have your stories that everyone probably knows about now, the Anunnaki and what they did, you know what I mean, in Mesopotamia. Then you have the Natharu who came and mixed in and produced your pharaohs, etc. in Africa. So these were the different things that was taking place in all the different cycles that we've existed in. So our cream history, as the masters explained, is 76 trillion years. That's our cream history. Yeah. And then as time went on, 17 million years ago was the birth of your Dravidians, your Hindu race. And then from the Hindu race.
So Zamal, they're supposed to be taking their own bloodline or other races' bloodline. They're supposed to do their sacrifice with their bloodline or with other races' bloodline.
Other races, because what it is they've made a pact with these extraterrestrials. So when you go into those, that's where your biblical stories come in now, because your biblical stories were making a pact or an agreement with those descendants of the Adamites, who they refer to as the Adamites. So the Adamites were created, and then those covenants, what they call covenants in your Bible, these were agreements that were made between these Adamites and these extraterrestrials, that if you are able to worship me by, what's the word I'm looking for, sacrificing these amount of people, and then we will bless you. So when you read the book of Leviticus, for example, you're seeing that they were killing goats and calves, and then it tells you that God is pleased with what they did, and that God was smelling the burnt offering. Reverse it back to the book of Genesis, where it talks about Cain, and Cain had his herbs and vegetables that he presented to God, and God turned his nose up at it. It's like, what's this? Why are you giving me this? Because I want the flesh. So when Abel, he cooked the flesh and gave it, that's when God was pleased. So it shows you that this God character is actually a carnivorous character. He likes meat. He likes to smell the burnt offerings. Noah's time, Noah burnt an offering to the God, and God was pleased. So it shows you that there's certain extraterrestrials or beings that require blood sacrifices. Our ancestors didn't require blood sacrifice because we were connected with nature, and all we needed to do was connect with nature using animism. Do you know what I mean? Our spiritual connection by the rituals of chanting, meditating. Do you know what I mean? Recognizing that these spiritual forces are within us, and that we just have to harness and exercise it. So that's what we were doing in ancient times. But yeah, these extraterrestrials were able to make covenants.
Yeah, there's the reason why I asked that. Go on.
Sorry, I didn't catch the last bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, I said the reason why I asked, because that sacrifice has been performed here in a couple of days. I think you heard about that, the little girl. So there's a reason why I'm asking about it.
Okay,
yes.
no, I wasn't aware. Yes, in this day and time, there's still sacrifices being done. It's just behind closed doors.
Pardon me?
It's behind closed doors. Some sacrifices are still being done. Or I mean, this one obviously you heard about. I don't know whether it's open in open view, but most of your sacrifices are done behind closed doors, like females or males. You know what I mean? Or in wars. Most of the time, when you hear about wars taking place, or even a COVID incident that's taken place, this COVID was part of that collecting of bodies by extraterrestrials. You with me? Because on one level, they were injecting that COVID, the antivirus, okay, and the nanoparticles, etc. But the actual COVID virus itself, that Sun Halio virus, is a virus that was supposed to switch on the DNA and start to kill the Adamites in their DNA. But unfortunately, this is what we're saying, because a lot of us are now mixed in with the Adamites, we were also catching the virus. you know, or contracting the virus. And it was also affecting us because the virus was targeting certain specific alleles in the DNA, okay, of these of the Muadamu or the Adamites. That was part of the what's the master put here? Okay, I'll read it from here. Where did I read it? Where did I read it? I was reading it. Yeah, I've lost it. I had the page. Right. So one of the things that they're doing is the weather changes. Okay. And it says, the master explained that there's also viruses and other calamities that's taking place. Some done by our ancestors by way of natural nature, like your earthquakes, your floods and stuff like that. And some are done by extraterrestrials, because what they're doing is they're literally wiping away a certain portion, a percentage of the planet, because the planet's population is like well over, do you know what I mean, a certain amount, and it's actually not conducive for this planet. So that's what nature's doing. They're reducing by way of wars, by way of viruses, plagues, etc. That's how they're removing X amount of people off the planet. And there's also what the master explained, that there's genetic markers that are in the DNA of humans, which they can identify who you are. So in the book, The Harvest, it's called The Harvest. In there, he explains that there are these companies, you see all these Ancestry.com and other DNA companies that want your ancestry and it can trace it back. That's an extraterrestrial ploy. That's actually a cover-up by extraterrestrials to actually find. I know it sounds like I've done it now. Oh my goodness, you know, I'm gonna die. No, it's saying the more they're explaining is that they can identify who you are now. Do you know what I mean? By those marks, and they can take your DNA and actually regrow you on other realms. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's part of that is the NHS actually are under the Knights Templar. Yeah, the Knights Templar, because you know what the symbol of Knights Templar is? It's the Red Cross. And who goes into African countries? The Red Cross. You see what I'm saying? So it's all covered. They've all covered it. Yeah. Okay. I'm being told I've got, well, literally 4 minutes. Any last burning questions? Zamata, I hope your question was answered, should I say? Samantha, you there?
So it has them all, but to me, what I'm saying, why did it escalate if it's supposed to be secret?
Why is it secret, did you say?
I said, why did it escalate? Why when it's supposed to be secret?
I have no idea. You're referring to the girl being sacrificed?
No, I'm not her friend. I'm in the country. I'm living in the country. So remember, they have this impact with the same thing going on, the corruption of it. So it just escalated. I just want to know why. If you're saying that it's supposed to be secret, why did they get that problem?
Right. Okay. Well, there are people who have actually written about these sacrifices. So sometimes there's a Caucasian guy called Jones. Something Jones. He was very, very heavily into the exposing of, you know, he called it the, what they call conspiracies. He was a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, yeah. And he always used to go into places and video. Yeah, he was exposing a lot of their things, so that they had to shut him down. I think they've shut him down. But essentially, there's people who are investigative reporters, and they investigate these things and, you know, expose them to the public. You know, obviously their life is put into jeopardy, but that's what they do. So what I'm saying is that it happens mostly behind closed doors. Even in France, there's a community who is actually legal that you can eat humans. Do you know what I'm saying? It's actually legal where you can eat human flesh. So it's not something that it's just not privy to the whole world. Even if they even show you now in some music videos. You have, I think, what's her name? This Caucasian girl that sings, and she's Katie Price. She had this alien one, or this other song where the person's lying on a bed, and they're literally consuming this person. You know what I mean? I've forgotten the video, but if you want to go and check her video out, Katie Price videos, you'll see that they're into human flesh. And sometimes, as the master explained, there's sometimes in restaurants, in the back where it's, no one can, like, it's restricted area access, they have certain things going on there, where human flesh is consumed. And they've actually said it sometimes in adverts as well. They've shown you subtly in adverts, yeah. So the KFC one, there you go. Yeah, so it's happening. It's slowly happening where this is where the programming takes place, because even though they're showing you human flesh, like human beings being eaten, essentially, if you watch a movie called Soylent Green, it's an old movie, Soylent Green. He finds out in the movie that humans are being collected for food. Yeah, and they're selling it back to humans. So he's wondering why these humans are craving and acting crazy, etc. And he finds out that in the movie that they're eating humans who've been, like, all the ones that are on the street, like don't have homes, homeless, etc. They actually cutting them off into dustbins and taking them to the factories and turning them into humans, and they call it Soylent Green.
They do the incident before. No, they do the movie before they do.
That's right. That's what they do. They always show you the movie, and then as time comes on, incidents will start happening. So going back to the third eye and being able to see certain things, that's how they teach. They show you in movies all the time.
So is it our ancestors that are teaching us about what is happening?
We can see from their eyes, our ancestors. If we allow ourselves to be connected to them, they can see into this realm, and they're able to guide us in this realm and protect us. But because of the various things that we do, we block them.
We're projecting them.
Exactly. That's what the book is about. Exactly. Reflection and projection. Yeah, exactly. Any last burning questions? Always a pleasure. Right. So let me just read. We can close it off. So verse 231, Takus or Tabrus. Reflection and projection is control of your inner and outer spirits. Takus or Tabrus. Reflection and projection are the Saham power to control your Ka'a spirit, present and past, to control your future in this Tapa world, and who will come to meet and greet you when you're ready to cross over to the Tapa world of the dead. They're only a Tapa world or Tajum dimension away. When they look on into this Tajum dimension, they can only guide and Nasor help you if and when you acknowledge them. You have to be in tune with them, and they be in tune with you. Pa Kakasnadu, the Kokozoids, will do anything to keep you from reconnecting your Sarat etheric cord to your Muslafu ancestors. So there's an etheric cord, there's a thin web-like cord that collapses. By that cord, it feeds you knowledge from your ancestors into your being. And this etheric cord or code, as the masters explained, is a code that keeps you in tune with them. So it's like a computer code. You with me? And that hard drive, if it's not infected by a virus, yeah, it constantly runs properly, doesn't it? So right now we have a virus or viruses that have affected us, that computer code. So the Sarat, the etheric cord, has collapsed, and our job is like a straw. It needs to be reactivated again. You with me? Reading on. They will give you fame and fortune, make you a star, offer you their Zazastatu women, a title, office, and a uniform. Just say Abrahamism, who made a covenant with the flesh-eating Mushat Mutatalu extraterrestrials they call Adonai, El Shadi. They interchange, so this goes into another thing. But yeah, essentially, okay, this is why we are here to influence our future. Because in influencing our future, we make the reality which is conducive for our children, okay, and for us to live in. But we can only create that by having the reflection and projection from our ancestors. I hope this has been a lovely class. And I'll wrap up with saying Tawakum Lahel Yatwe. That's thank you for all coming to our class, our question and answer class, and I hope to see you again next Saturday. I think the student teacher will be Haptui Reye Atum Hatap, I think. Could be wrong. Correct me if it's your online, Zamal. But yeah, he should be on next week and he'll be teaching. We also have up and coming sponsorship walk on the 1st of June for those who want to participate. It is in London, so I know there's various people around the world, but if you're in London and you want to participate in this sponsorship walk, reach out to us at Nashat and join the family so we can take the sponsorship. It's basically what we do is we're raising funds for the legal fight for our master teachers' freedom, and also for other things that we have in the pipeline. So yeah, if you want to reach out to us and get an application form or get a sponsorship form to participate and join us on the 1st of June, that's a Sunday. And yeah, all information you can reach out to us on nashat.co.uk. Tawakum Moisar Wuwadu.
Wadu.